Okay, hello friends. Today I'm going to be painting something like this. This is a very quick kind of mock-up idea of what I'm going to be working on. So I'm going to take you through the background first, and I'll show you kind of the supplies you're probably going to need. So this is a 8x10 canvas. I'm just working small for this because it's easier with my camera, but you can paint any size. And you know, you could do it vertical or horizontal, whatever works better for you compositionally. I have paper plates here that I'm using for my paint. I do have some paint poured, but my plate is really messy, so I'm just going to show you kind of what you might want to start with. Definitely white. Always need some white. And I am using acrylic paint, which is from Dick Blick, but you can really use any kind of acrylic paint. I also have some of these like Liquitex Basics paints, which are also pretty good. They're a little thicker, but they work just as well. And honestly, any basic acrylic paint from any craft store is probably gonna work well for you. So there's that, and then I also have black. Boop. You don't really need much. Little goes a long way. And I also have phthalo green. It's just kind of a more tealish like green. Some of that. And red. This is an older bottle, but same. This is called bright red. You can have all sorts of different kinds of reds, but this is like a rosy red. If you want more of an orangey red, you could use like a fire red or maybe like vermilion or something. And then you're gonna want yellow, which I have a big jug of because I don't know where my little one went. That should be good for now because I have extra of it on the side there. So something like this will be good to start. If you want to use blue or anything, maybe you want to make different colored flowers, you could use those, but this is what I'm starting with. And I'm just going to put that to the side here. And you're going to want water and your brushes. The first brush I'm going to be starting with is a bigger kind of shaped brush. This is kind of rounded on the top. It doesn't really matter for the background because we're just going to kind of be slopping the color all over. And once I get the color on there, I'm actually probably going to use a paper towel to help me kind of rub it in to make it even smoother. You can do this with a paintbrush, but it's kind of a little faster with a paper towel. All right, so the background that's kind of on this example I've mocked up is sort of like soft, kind of muted tones in the background. There's like greenish and like reddish on the sides. So I usually like to just paint right on the canvas, but I'll show you guys how you can mix these colors first if you want. So I'm just gonna take some white maybe, and then some red, and then just a tiny bit of black. You don't need a ton because it will go pretty strong. Now this is gonna kind of make like a sort of a soft maroon kind of color. And if you want to tone it down even more, like if you don't want it to be super red, you can actually use some green because it'll kind of tone down your red. It actually might make it look a little purpley just because this is phthalo green, but even more so, you could add a little yellow, kind of like a little bit of everything to start toning it down. But you just need some kind of like deeper, more maroonish red color, maybe a little more black, because you're going to kind of mix it all on the canvas anyway. Maybe a little more white. Now mixing is kind of an art in itself. You want to kind of like push it all to the edge of your plate, you know, try to keep it in a pile here, because if you just swirl it around your entire plate, you've not only wasted the paint because you've just painted the plate, but you won't be able to pick it up because it'll be flat. So definitely want like a pile. Okay, so usually I would just start painting and like add as I go, but for you guys, I'm gonna rinse my brush off pretty good in my water. Rinse it, dry it on my paper towels. Now I'm gonna make that kind of greeny, limey tone. So I'm gonna take, let's go ahead with a scoop of yellow. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of green, a little less than that just to start. I want it to be kind of lighter. I don't want it to be super dark. And then I'm gonna add some white. This is gonna help it be more opaque. But I want it to be muted like the other side, so I'm gonna take just a little black to start to gray it up a little. Actually, that's pretty good just like that. But you know, you can change it up if you want. This is kind of a small pile, but I'm gonna kind of show you how you can paint, like just grab from these colors as you're going instead of just using these by themselves. So I'm gonna start laying this color kind of just anywhere, sort of on the bottom left side of my canvas. And you might notice that the canvas kind of absorbs the paint a little quick. You might run out of paint a little bit. And if you do run out of paint before you fill in an area, a quick trick you can do is dip it in your water and just get it like a little wet. And then you can use it even more and spread that color around. Especially since this is a background and we're not really gonna worry too much about like the aesthetic of it, I guess. We're not like putting any details, we're just trying to get a nice color, like a backdrop. So you can just keep it green if you want, but you can also take some white on your brush if you want, kind of throw it in some random spots and blend it around. The more you drag two wet colors into each other, the more they will blend. You don't need to keep adding it. So like that's all I need to add for white. I don't need to continue. I'm gonna start kind of maybe get the paint off my brush just by lapping it on the canvas like this. And I'm not gonna rinse my brush. I'm gonna start taking some of this color and maybe start aiming up in the corner here. And it's pretty dark compared to the green, but that's okay. I'm gonna just keep moving it around before I grab any more. I'm gonna maybe start brushing the green with it. Yeah, grab a tiny more. Kind of brushing them together. You're like blending. Like if you were doing your makeup, if you do your makeup, you kind of blur them together. And I'm going kind of fast because the paint will start to dry. Grabbing a little more water. The paint will start to dry if I don't work with a little bit of purpose. Now up here I can also do that white thing where I grab a little white on my brush and kind of like pop it around in some spots and just keep blurring it in. So now we're running into something that's kind of like, for composition wise, the top right of my canvas is pretty heavy right now because it's really dark and the bottom is lighter. And that's okay, but usually you want the bottom part of your canvas to be a little heavier. And we're gonna kind of counteract that with when we put the birds in. They'll help kind of balance it. But even still, I'm going to take some of this burgundy color with a little white and maybe just toss some down here in the corner just to balance it out a little, and maybe grab the green again to help blur it in. And my brush strokes are just kind of quick little pets of the canvas back and forth. Not really any specific movement, constantly different. Yeah. Blend it all around and fill in that corner up here. But the cool thing is, after you do this, if you want to smooth it out even more, if you don't really want to see those brush marks, you can leave them if you like them. But you can take a paper towel, and this is only going to work if your canvas is still pretty wet. You can probably see that it's kind of glistening. That's still wet. So I'm going to just take this towel, and I'm going to start to kind of go like this. And just tiny little circles, soften it around, soften it up. Be careful if you don't want to drag too much of this color this way. You can fold the towel over, start in a new spot. And this is just going to kind of really give you an even more kind of smoothed out, blended background. Definitely optional though. If you liked your brush marks, you can leave your brush marks. the way that they were. You do not need to do this if you don't want to. So if you have a backstapled canvas like I do, you can paint the edges if you want. You could just use this towel and kind of scrub the edges in. You could leave it blank if you were gonna frame it or anything like that. For me, I'm probably just gonna leave it for now. But we do need to let this background dry a little bit. If it bothers you that you can still kind of see the white of the canvas, you can let it dry and do another coat. But I would say that your emphasis is gonna be on the birdies and not so much the background. So you can decide how you'd like. So let it dry. So once your background is dry enough that you can kind of like tap it and nothing comes off, like feels pretty good. Now we're going to draw in the stick. So on this example, like usually you would think that wood is like brown, but we can actually just make it gray and kind of get away with it. So I've got this super tiny brush. It's like kind of pointy. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some white and a little bit of black, and I'm just gonna mix it around right here. Let me get my brush really covered in it. It doesn't have to be like a specific gray right now. It can just be kind of basic middle tone. So I like to get my brush covered all over and do this twist and pull kind of effect, because it keeps your brush in a nice point, because all that paint acts kind of like a glue and it's going to keep that brush stuck together real nice for you. And holding your brush closer here is going to be better. If you're painting flat like me, it's kind of easier to steady yourself, but if you're sitting up like at an easel, definitely hold it closer. If you need to rest your hand on your canvas, you can do that too. Now we don't have to be too particular for this part. We can just say maybe from up here, maybe it'll be skinnier, so I'll press a little more gently and just slowly drag it down to this end. You can press a little harder. Now you can make it just go right off the page if you want, or it can just float there, kind of a little bit more stylized if it's just floating there. So now I'm just going to kind of go back across and fill it in a little more. Now it's just a stick, okay? You can see I've got wiggles and stuff. It does not need to be straight. Don't worry about making it straight. But for like a nice crisp line, enough paint on your brush will really help. So to make one of the little branches coming off, if you're going to go maybe off and down, stay inside your line and then start bringing it just off, veer it in another direction. You can kind of bend it and wiggle it if you want. Make sure you release your pressure toward the end to let it get smaller. If you go the opposite way, you can start out here and start pressing really gently and then press a little harder as you go toward your stick and just bleed it right into it. Same goes for if you want to throw some more little kind of guys coming off. Just come off on an angle. You don't usually want to make a stick come straight out, because that's more like a cactus kind of vibe. Ta-da! So that should be pretty good, because we're going to add like leaves and flowers and stuff. But before we're done with this stick, I'm going to make a slightly darker gray. You can either mix it right into your gray or just take some, and so definitely blacker, darker. And I'm just going to use this to kind of like add a little definition to our stick. So that means I'm just going to kind of, don't even worry about covering the whole thing. If you start up here and maybe like pick up your brush here and there to kind of add like broken bits, that's okay. But I'm kind of dragging along the bottom, maybe the bottom of this and down this way. It might blend a little bit with the gray you put down, and that's okay. Do some here. You really don't have to take it too slow, because this part's supposed to just kind of be like, you know, more organic. So the less particular you make it, honestly, I think the more organic it will look. Last thing I'm going to do is just take some white and put it over here. Maybe just a touch of gray. And I'll just use that to kind of go do the vice versa. So kind of maybe like throw a few like lighter marks kind of on the top of my stick here to kind of add like a highlight kind of effect. And I'm kind of picking up my brush and twisting it, being kind of really gentle, not too much pressure here and there. Yeah, so that gives us like some nice highlights and lowlights on our lovely branch. So while that's drying, we can make some colors for the cardinals. And there's lots of different colors going on in them. We've got the male cardinal that's all red, and then the female that's got different colors in it. And you could totally put them on the opposite sides if you want. You could do two male cardinals, whatever you want to do. But I'll show you some mixtures here. And I'm just going to stick with this small brush. Actually, nope. I'm going to switch to a slightly bigger brush just to mix the colors. So I have like a bigger pile and I don't have to try so hard to make a big pile. But then I'll probably switch back to the little one. Okay, so the cardinal, the male, definitely red, obviously. But it's not like, this is kind of a rosy red. It's almost like apple-y. And this cardinal is kind of more like fiery. So what I'm going to do is take some yellow and mix these together. And don't worry, it's not going to turn like super orange. The red is way more powerful, so it will stay pretty red. But it's just going to make it a little bit more kind of like ketchup-y, I guess, and less rosy. So we want to work with that for our male cardinal. And I'm going to take a little bit of white, just a bit. I'm going to put that in there too to lighten it up so it's a little more opaque, so it's easier to lay down on your canvas. And then, oops, then we need like a slightly darker color. But actually, before I even do that, I'm gonna show you guys the shape, because then we can let the shape sit and make that color in between. So I'm gonna put this brush in my water, and I'm gonna go back to my little brush, my little tiny skinny brush. And let me move this, and I'm gonna cover this brush with this and do that twist thing if you want. We're kind of making like a bigger blobby shape, so you don't have to be super particular, but it's up to you. I'm going to start up here on this side. Now, to really break this down as easily as possible, I would say try to make kind of like an egg shape almost, not like a perfect circle, but the shoulders or like wings of your bird will kind of be, you know, the widest area. So if this is like the top of the egg, we're not doing the head yet, that will be up here, but that kind of shape, and then maybe start to narrow it down as you come down here. So a little bit more like an egg kind of sitting right there. And you can continue the body shape going this way, kind of hit that edge of the branch. This side isn't going to go diagonally like that one. This side is going to come straight down, sort of like that. So it's going to come bleeding right off this rounded edge of this egg. Cool? And then you want to do the tail, so kind of imagine where that's going to land under here. If you have to paint over your branch, go ahead and do it. It's not a big deal, because when it's dry, you can put those branch colors back in. You know, they're not very, acrylics are very kind of forgiving in that manner. You can paint over any painting you want. So we're going to bring this tail down, probably not very long. I'm doing, this is 8 by 10, so it's kind of small, but I'm going to go to maybe about where my knuckle is from the putting my finger at the top of the branch there. And then you just stop right there. It's about how long it'll be. Probably about the same length as your egg shape. You know, you want a nice long tail. So this end can go this way. If you want, you can kind of lean it back. And then this end might bow out a little bit here, but it's definitely going to curve back in this way. And if you want, you can add like little bumps to indicate like feathers on the bottom there. It's like a W, a 3UW, triple U. Okay, and then you can fill this in just with this color. And before we fill in the top, let's go ahead and do like the head kind of shape. So if you imagine this is like the little round of his belly, his beak would kind of go right here. So we're gonna just skip over where his beak would go. Imagine a triangle here. You can draw it if you want, but we're gonna do it with orange after. I'm gonna have a flat head shape. It's gonna come down this way. Oops. And then this back part is where his little tassels will be. But if you just come from like the edge of your egg shape here and just bring this kind of up, and you can widen it if you want, you know, this gives me a lot of tail space, so instead if I bring this out, I can just round out the edge of this, and that's fine, no big deal. And then you can add extra little flicks here for that like back tassel part of their head. Then you can fill in the rest of his body. Okay, so sometimes when you fill in a shape that you've drawn, sometimes it's easier to see the like proportions a little better because you can see the whole thing. So this is a good place to tweak if you need to. And whenever you are drawing something out, it's okay to start smaller because you can make it bigger if you have to, like how I rounded this out over here. The one thing I might do is just bring this head shape out a little more. I know I'll have the beak there, but I just wanted it to be a little bigger. It's where you can work with proportion and stuff. All right, so while this is still a little wet, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take this red I was using, put a piece of it over here. I'm gonna take a scoop of yellow because I want this to be a little bit brighter, and then maybe a little white. Just mix that around right here. So it's like ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise. Super delicious. And that's still not as like bright as I want. So I'm gonna do a little more yellow. See, this is a little bit of an experiment. Just trying to get it lighter. But I don't want it to be too orange. So I'm just gonna keep kind of throwing in what I need until it looks a little lighter. Cool, okay, so this is gonna be for like a little lighter patch on his belly, kind of. So while this paint's wet, we should be able to take this lighter kind of orangey, not quite orangey, but a little lighter, and if we plop it on there, yeah, there you go, you can see that difference. Now if I just leave it like that, it's not gonna blend, but if I keep, I'm not adding any more paint to my brush, I'm just gonna keep brushing it in to kind of make the belly brighter. Now this is called wet on wet blending. There's lots of different ways you can blend. Like you can lay this color down straight on the canvas without putting that red everywhere if you want, and then blur them together. I just personally like wet into wet blending because it's easier to just blur the colors together. Sometimes it kind of gets a little lost. You know, that's normal. But we're brightening that up a little. And I'm also going to brighten up a little bit kind of like around where his cheek sort of would be. Wiping my brush off every now and then because you don't need a ton of paint for wet into wet. You just have to lay it down and then kind of manipulate it around a little bit. There we go. It's not super obvious, but it's there. Now, this is going to make it really cool. It's going to make it pop a little more. Now I'm going to take we're going to take this color that we used to fill in the whole bird, put some over here, a little more than that. And I'm going to take just a bit of black because black is very powerful. And I'm going to mix that in with that. So this is going to give us a deeper kind of maroon tone, and we're going to use this for the shadow parts on our cardinal. So I'm going to go on the back here, and my color here is still kind of wet. If you had to pause in between, if this is still wet, great. If it's dry, you can literally just put those colors back on here. So if you need to, you can just take some of your original red color and put it back here so it's wet again, so you have something to work with. But we're gonna go kind of from where his little back tassel is and drag it all the way down. And you don't need to keep adding paint, okay? Just use what's on your brush. And if you just go up and down, slowly blur it into your brighter red colors, it will blur together to give you a nice little gradient. And you can get even more drastic with it if you want. You know, you could add a little more black to that red concoction and you can really darken it up. It's darker down here where his legs are too, so I'm gonna kind of maybe work it up this edge of the egg shape a little bit. Not too much though, because this is just the under part of our bird, so that's where we want the shadow to be. I'm wiping off my brush because I put plenty of dark paint on there. Now there's nothing on my brush, it's just stained. Like, yeah, it stains me, but it's not gonna add more paint. So now all I'm doing is blurring the lighter color and the darker color into each other. You can even do this with your finger if you want. Just be gentle. As your finger's smoother, it'll give you kind of a nice smooth transition, as long as you have the two colors wet on there. But that's another way you can do it. And you can keep playing with that as much as you want. If you want to get really into it, there's a little bit of darkness kind of in here. Not the black part of his face, but just like where the head is separated from the shoulders kind of. You could do a little bit there. Definitely not necessary. It'll still look like a pretty cardinal if you don't add this in here. I'm just putting it there in case anybody wants to try. And then lastly, the tail. So you can take a bunch of that dark color, because the tail's pretty dark, and start layering that in here, right up against that tree branch. Sound effects are very helpful. Don't be afraid to try. Now, once you have it all kind of filled in darker, you could take some of that lighter kind of ketchup mayo mustard thing I was talking about, and you could drag it from the bottom up. You could kind of start at the bottom and just flick it upwards. Whoops. Sort of like that, to kind of imitate feathers. You know, the tricky part here is just don't overblend it, you know. Let some of those bright colors stand out on their own. Ta-da! So, pause it here if you need to. I'm gonna keep on going here. Next, I'm gonna work on the little beak, which should be pretty dry up here. I'm gonna go ahead and take this kind of lighter tone we made, just take some of it, constantly using what I already have. Take some more yellow. Come here, yellow. I'm still using this small brush, and I'm mixing that around, making it even more orangey, because now we're just doing the beak. And then some white, and it's okay to use a good amount because it's a pretty pale colored beak. That should be good. And then we can kind of utilize our other reds and stuff to like add blending if we want. So I'm coming in here and we're gonna cut into the face a little bit, pressing gently, and then down to kind of make like a little triangle on the face. Don't forget the rolling technique, and then bring it out. This side is gonna be a little longer, so it's kind of like a diamond shape. but the beak part that's sticking out goes out longer. And then you can just fill it in. If you're having trouble like really getting a thick coat of paint, press that paint on there, get a kind of blob of it happening, and then just gently spread it around, kind of like it's butter on a piece of toast. There you go. Now that's gonna be a little wet for a second, so it might be a little tricky to blend because there's just a lot of paint on there. But if you're really gentle, I'm gonna take some of that original red color we made. If you're really gentle, you can throw some red on the top part of the beak, and you can also throw some like where the beak separation would be. I'm being really gentle because if I'm not, I'm gonna move that orange paint where I don't want it. So I'm just gently kind of dragging it into itself, and I'm wiping my brush off because I don't need any more. Yeah. And then last little fun part, if you want to, is you can take just the tiniest bit of white on the tip of your brush and kind of throw a little shine on the beak. It doesn't have to stay super white like that. Just put it on there, wipe it off. Ooh, make a mess on your canvas. Wipe it off your brush, and then you can just gently drag it into that orange. And if it doesn't really stay kind of popping, you can do it again. There you go. I'm being very gentle. But it gives you kind of a nice pop to that beak. Cool. Okay. Next thing, don't even really have to let that dry. I'm gonna take this small brush, I've rinsed it out, and I'm gonna take black and I'm gonna cover it all over my brush. That nice point. And we're gonna start kind of doing the mask of the cardinal. So first you can just go around the beak because we know we want it that close anyway. And then all sorts of cardinal little mask shapes are kind of different, but what I'm gonna do is kind of drag my brush like this and sort of flick to create these little tiny little points. And I'm gonna keep going down because it kind of goes with the curve of the feathers, and it's a bunch of different little feathers, so if you have all these little flicks in here, it'll make it look a little bit more cohesive than just one like line, you know? You can do it that way too though if you want. Right around here where we get closer to the beak, this is where the eye's gonna go. So it's gonna be kind of cool. We're just gonna paint this in black, kind of make like a bigger spot. And I'll show you how we do the eye with white in a little while, but then you wanna start doing smaller flicks as you go down the bottom of the beak here. And this is where we put that dark stuff right there because this is kind of where the head and neck are separated. And then you can kind of do them again going with the curve of the feathers down here, like so. Really gentle little pulls. And I didn't grab any more paint that whole time. I just used the same amount of paint all the way around. You don't need it to be that caked on there. So let that dry for a second. We don't have to jump right into the eyeball. But something we could do is the legs. So let's do that. So the legs are gonna be, they're kind of like a burnt orange. So if we take some of that orange we made, this like crazy orangey color, you can even use some of this. Oops, and then maybe a tiny bit of black just to like rust it up a bit. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so pointed brush, as pointed as you can get. Hold it close, be gentle, press really lightly, and we're gonna kind of create a triangle with this one line. So we've made like a triangle from here with the edge of the bird's body, the edge of the stick, and then this is the leg coming out, so it's going to create that little triangle shape. Might be a little different for you, and that's okay. Then you want to kind of create that little bend. This would be one of the little hooks going over the branch, and then you would have another one right here, and then kind of one going behind the branch. Now we can thicken up this leg a little bit because the foot's thicker, so we want to have a nice sturdy leg to hold up our bird. Yeah, there's one. Then this one, it's going to be a little bit more close to the branch because he's like bent. So we'll do like the little hook coming around, and then maybe like that, because technically his leg would be coming from the same spot this one is, but what's happening is it's bent behind the tree and he's clipping onto the thing. But I wouldn't worry too much about that little spot because we can put like a flower here to help kind of hide it if it looks funny. There's always ways to change things. Then just like how we kind of like added like low lights and highlights to things before, you could take a little bit of this lighter orange if you want and kind of add like a little bit of definition. I'm just kind of tapping it along. I'm not being very particular about what it looks like. I'm just kind of like tapping it along there to add a little definition. Something. A little something something. Rinsing my brush. And I'm gonna go to white now, and I'm gonna show you the eyeball. Again, pause when you need to. I'm gonna take some white. My brush is already pretty pointed, but just to be safe, I'm gonna twist. Perfect. So I'm gonna try my hardest to use the very tip of this. I know my brush curves a little bit, but I'm gonna just be as careful as I can to just use the very tip of the brush. And I'm gonna come a little bit farther back from the beak. And I'm gonna start a white circle, and you don't wanna fill it in. So you wanna leave it open. Bring this down. There we go. All right, so a little bit further back, I'm pressing as gently as I can, making a nice white circle. Now, if it's hard for you to do like a tiny line like that, you can definitely just fill it in if it's easier, and then you can use black to put this black back in the middle. But then all you have to do is add a little white dot right here, and that's really it for the eye. And that's pretty much it for the red cardinal as well. So we can start working on the other one. So we'll let that guy be. We'll start doing the other one. All right. The other one has all sorts of different colors in it. So I think I'm gonna start with the lightest one, which is kind of like basically this nice orangey color, but I'm gonna add a little bit more white to it to get it a little bit more peachy. Maybe a little red. Just a little, kind of blushy. And we'll just use this to kind of do the full color for the full shape of our bird, and then we can start filling it in differently. All right. So our other bird is a little lower on our branch here. So I'm definitely gonna let this guy hover above the branch. It's not sitting as close or overlapping like this one is. So we're gonna do that egg shape again, but this time your egg is gonna kind of hang out above the branch. That's around the area we wanna be. And whoop, again, the top part of the egg is the wider part for us in this instance. Bring it down. Doop. All right. Now, from here, this is kind of cool because the front part of this bird is like a full curve. So we're gonna come from this part of their egg and continue this curve going up to about here. Then this would be like the top point that kind of has the little tail tassels there. And we're gonna come from there and come back down toward our egg shape. And there is gonna be a little bit of a bow coming out from there. We're not gonna like bleed right into it. So bring this down like a little shark fin shape and then bring this here, and this is gonna bow out because it's like the shoulder of our bird. And then the tail for this bird comes kind of right off the bottom of this egg shape here and just goes straight down and almost comes to the point of this branch right there. And we can come right off the edge of this egg curve, bring that down. And then if you want, you can add like another little bit of wing kind of poking out, like you could add like a little feather kind of shape coming out of the bird's wing. And then we could just fill this in and we'll work on blending other things into it. Okay, so with that, now we're gonna do some kind of red blushy parts. So my brush is still dirty. I'm just gonna kind of wipe it maybe on there or on a towel. And I'm gonna take some of this original red we used for our other cardinal. Not much, just kind of coating the end of my brush. And I'm gonna take it and sort of blend it into sort of the front belly part of this bird. There's just a little blush spot right here. The more you blend it in, the more it might just change color. So if you need to like pop a little more on top, a little more gently, do so. And if anything gets out of hand, you can wipe off your brush and take some of that blushy color and sort of blur it back in. Okay, now we're gonna go to the top of the head of the bird and do the same thing, because this is where the little like crown is. So I'm covering my brush with this red. A little more generously this time, I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna kind of flick like this to create that fun little hat, a little feathery hat. Flick it down the sides a bit. And again, just kind of wipe your brush, you don't need more paint, and just kind of gently flick it kind of into that peachy color till it sort of fades. Sometimes it can get a little, you know, gotta just keep working back and forth, but you'll get it. So now I'm gonna go back and just add some more of this. There we go. Very pretty. Okay. Now, hello? Oh. Okay, so after the red, we're gonna do some Actually, we're gonna go back to, go ahead and find the color you used in your background. Mine is like a purpley kind of color because of the mixture. So it was like red and black and some of that green to create like a nice purpley color. We're gonna use this to utilize in the wings of this bird because it's a little bit, it's not like straight up gray, it's got like a nice color to it. So I'm gonna take some black and add it into this color. So it kind of gives us this cool like grayish purpley color. It's very pretty. And you can utilize this color too when we're painting. So just kind of mix that around, get some kind of basic darker tone. And I'm gonna use this to kind of give myself place in the bird here for the wing. So this is gonna kind of come from the back of the neck, down the front of the body here, down the back, and it will kind of trail down the tail here. We'll add more later, but you can fill in this back feather that we throw in there. You can fill that in. Okay, so now while that's wet, I'm gonna rinse my brush off. I'm not gonna take too much time doing that. I just wanna clean it off real quick, get it dry. Now I'm going to take some of that peach color that I used for the body of the bird, if it dried a little, and kind of put it out here, right along next to it. And then I'm going to take my brush and kind of do really gentle little pulls to sort of blur that purpley color and that peach together, just a little. You don't have to like really drag them into each other, but it will help kind of soften the changeover. You can also do that on the top. Throw some peach down, kind of blur them into each other. You can use your finger if you want. I like using the brush because it kind of gives you these tiny little, you know, brush marks that sort of looks like feathers. So kind of camouflage that back part into the bird. Throw some more purple if you got a gray purple, you know. Cool. I wipe my brush off a lot, so if there's anything I can throw at you for like good tips, don't be afraid to wipe your brush off a bunch. If you've got color on there, you don't need to continue adding it. That's why my paper towels look insane when I'm done. Okay, so we're not done with the inside of this wing yet. Totally lost the word. I'm taking a bunch of white on my brush. I'm just gonna put it here. There was some paint on my brush, but I'm not really worried about the color it's gonna make. I'm gonna take a tiny bit of this purpley color. So it's still wet on the canvas, so it's gonna kind of blend anyway. Now I'm gonna kind of add some brushy, fluffy, feathery texture, kind of like lines like this. Kind of more focused on the bottom point of the wing. Now that's really light, so all I'm gonna do is take some of this color again and just kind of start doing the same thing to kind of counteract it. But by blurring these into each other, you should get some really cool little blends here and there. And if you really want one to stand out more, you know, do like one quick swipe and just leave it. Try not to keep blending it. That gives you some really cool little feather texture. And then lastly, if you want, you can throw some red even in this wing because this bird is very colorful, so you could throw a little bit of red color in here. Same brushes. I'm being very gentle too, so don't feel like you have to press very hard. So all you're doing is applying the paint onto the canvas. Once it takes, you don't need to like push it on anymore. My cat is being weird. Okay. And then for the tail down here, we could throw some more of this dark color just to get it wet. And then maybe some red. It's pretty red on the tail here, so kind of blur those into each other. Flick it up into the body so it kind of bleeds it. And if you want, you can use your peach color again to kind of blur it back out. The very belly of this bird is a little whiter, I mean. So if you take a little white on a cleaner brush, you can kind of throw like an underline, still inside the bird though, right on the very bottom here. And while that's a little wet, wipe off your brush, take some of that peachy color, blur it in. Very small amount of that peachy color, didn't need much. Cool, so that's pretty much everything for that bird minus the beak, face, and feet. So I am going to take, I might need to make some more of this peachy color. So I'm gonna take some white and some of, I don't have much of this left, but mix it around. Maybe take some yellow. There we go. It's coming back. I'm gonna use this for the beak, just like I did the other one. Okay. Pointy, and I'm gonna come right in here. And this beak, it's gonna kind of bleed and like blend with what you already have here, but you wanna create a little point coming out, point coming in. Then we'll take a darker version, like the red, maybe even the one that has a little black in it to get even more of a pop if you want. And kind of draw the line that separates the beak, put a little on the top there, maybe with just red. And as you can see, it looks really messy right now, but that's because I haven't blended it around. So now that there's paint on there, I don't need any more on my brush, so I'm cleaning off my brush. This is where the brush just becomes a tool, and I'm just gonna kind of gently manipulate that color around. Okay, it's a lot of red, so I'm just gonna take some more of that peach, pop it on there, and blur that around. I really want that mouth to show a little more. Very gentle movements. That's nice. Now I'm gonna take some white, just a bit on the end of my brush, pop it right here, and I'm gonna really, really gently move it around. Just to kind of give a shiny spot on the beak. You see, my hand's a little shaky too sometimes, but it doesn't have to be a perfect thing, you know, you're just making kind of blobs and moving them around, so. Cool, okay, that looks good. Now I'm probably gonna jump down to the legs. So I'm gonna take peachy color, pop it here, maybe make it a little more orangey, and maybe some of this darker tone here. Because the legs are just kind of like a rusty orangey color. They don't have to both be the same, you know. I mean between the two birds. You probably want both legs on one bird to be the same. So this one, I'm gonna come down from here, just a line, bring it down to the branch. This one is gonna be a little bit more drastically bent this way. And then you wanna do the little curves going around the branch like this. That one goes back. And this one up. They're like little hooks, you know? And then like we did before, you can take a lighter version, like this lighter peachy color, and just kind of pop it along there to kind of create a little bit of a lighter pop. And I just kind of like pick up the brush very gently to kind of create like a jagged texture. So up close it's gonna look weird, but when you stand back, you know, it's gonna make sense. Ta-da! Then we wanna do the mask like we did on the other one. So I'm covering my small brush in black and I'm gonna twist like so. And we're gonna start around our beak. If anything is wet and you're nervous, you can wait. You don't have to jump right into it. You can let it sit and dry. You can pause the video. And another thing that I haven't had to use yet, because things dry pretty quick with acrylic for this one, but you can definitely use a hairdryer to blow dry things, dry them up a little faster. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of really gently flicking right along with kind of the direction of the feathers. If I wipe some of this off, my brush will get a little bit more feathery. So it will help with those little flicks if you want to get real little. So I kind of... Okay, so my bird might look a little different, but that's because I thought something wasn't recording, so I tried to redo it to record it again. And then I found out it did record, so it was saved the whole time, so that was pointless. So ignore the fact that my bird looks a little different, because I caught it back up to where it was. But I'm just going to continue doing the little black mask here, and I'm just flicking my brush along, flicking down. This probably doesn't need to be quite so feathery. I'm going to make it a little tighter. And just like the other eye, you want to have a nice spot of black for where we're going to put this eye. And you know, something like that. And obviously this eye is just going to be white again. So I'm washing off my brush. I'm going to dip into white to make sure the point is nice on the top. Nice and pointy. And I'm going to come real close. Let me bring this down a little bit. As close as I can anyway. And I'm going to draw a circle really gently. Right around this dark mask here. My black is still wet, so it's kind of changing the color. But if I'm really gentle, I can keep it pretty white. And then you want to do that little white dot. Now you can tweak it after if you want. It does look a little silly, but I'm going to let it dry, and then I can use black to kind of tweak it if I need to. Okay, so that's that bird. And next is going to be flowers and leaves and all that fun stuff. Okay, so next I'm going to start working on the leaves that are going to go all over our branch. Leaves don't necessarily... like they do attach, but if you're far enough away from a tree, you can't necessarily see the stem of it. So, alright, so I'm gonna make like a dark green for my leaves, and I'm using a bigger brush now. I've got like a slightly bigger kind of round brush. It's pointy though. I'm taking some green and I'm taking some yellow, because first I want to just make it kind of more of a greenery kind of green, because the phthalo green is more of like a teal. So I want to make it more like, you know, foliage green, so I'm just adding some more yellow to it. That's already looking nice. Now I'm going to add some black just to darken it up a little more, to really get like a kind of like a foresty green. There we go. Nice and dark. Cool. So I'm gonna go around and kind of make shapes with this first, and then we can come back to them with a lighter green color to kind of add detail. So maybe at the end here, let me see over here, make sure I'm in the frame. Ah. Yeah, okay. So maybe at the end here, I'll be like, to do a leaf, you can either draw out the shape like as carefully as you can, like that, and then fill it in. But if you have a nice brush like this, you can honestly do a leaf shape like in one pull. If you press gently on the end and then press a little harder and then gently again, you can get a nice leaf shape. It's a little easier that way. If this brush is too big, you can use a smaller brush, but any kind of rounded brush like this will do you good. I'm gonna put a leaf kind of floating here because I'm gonna have a patch of flowers kind of around it. And then I'm gonna have a couple kind of on the branch. Now the petals are gonna be very similar to this kind of movement when we do the flowers. We've got a bunch of flowers kind of hanging down here, so there's also leaves floating around in this area. It's kind of a branch, so I'm pressing a little light to kind of do like a stem, and then pressing hard, and then release. Pressing hard, and then release. We have a leaf kind of hanging out next to this guy. Maybe we can't see the point of it, you know, maybe it's like bent around the back way, and that's all right. Goes up close to him. Her, it's a girl. And then maybe another one here. You know, think about balance. If your branch is a little different than mine, if it's a little bit more cramped, maybe you can't fit one in here. Maybe it would make more sense for you to do more down here. Whatever works. You know, think about your painting. And then I'm gonna do a couple up here. Just leading back toward the branch. Little guy. All right, I think that's enough of the big ones. I'm going to switch back down to my smaller brush. This guy. Now I'm going to use a lighter green. I'm running out of room up here. Now I'm going to use a lighter green, so I'm just going to maybe take some of this color, pop it here, and I'm going to do a bunch more yellow into it to make it much lighter. Woo! And then I'm also going to do white, so a nice chunk of white. Yeah, that looks good. Lighter, a little limey. Never hurt anyone. And we can use this to kind of add details to our leaves. They might be a little wet for this right now, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'll start with this one. Maybe you could go down the middle of your leaf and kind of add some little lines to kind of give the idea of vines or like veins on your leaf. And you can kind of blur it into the green if you want. You can also do it like on the edge of the leaf. But this is just going to add a little bit more depth. And if anything gets a little too crazy, just wipe off your brush, take some more of your darker color again, and you can use it to replenish. Now if it all just turns into one color, you can totally just let it dry, come back to it later. I think I will hit these leaves with a blow dryer real quick, just to dry them up a little more. So that way I'm not like struggling to fight with them. Okay, my leaves are a little drier now. I blow dried them real quick. Drying off my brush, taking some of that light green, twisting my brush to get it into a point. And now I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna bring this down a little closer. Okay, let's try this guy. Maybe I throw some light green on the end and really gently maybe a line down the middle. Maybe take a little of the dark green again. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be like specific lines down the middle, like you don't have to be like so specific, like line, line, line. Like some of them can be, but also if you just kind of throw some green and light blending in there, kind of randomly, as long as it's going with the direction of your leaf, it's still gonna look cool when you step back. It doesn't need to be like super specific all the time. Ooh, even that just looks cool because there was light green on my brush. Pressed here with dark, and then there's light green on my brush there, so that looks really cool. You know, that's another way you can try it if you want. So I'm just gonna go around to all my leaves and do some green, dark and light green blending here and there. Okay, gonna want to let that dry for just a minute. Actually, in the meantime, I'm gonna take my tiny brush, a tiny little brush, and I'm going to fix this eye on this bird. See, it just looks a little funny. So I'm just taking a bunch of black and I'm twisting my brush in it to get a nice point, just so I can kind of go into that eye and really fix it up a little, because he just looks a little crazy. I'm just gonna make his pupil a little bigger, so he just looks a little more calm, just a little. Maybe chill out the edges a bit. Well, sometimes that happens where you accidentally just, you know, cover a line you didn't mean to. So you gotta go back to the other color, take some white, get in there, tweak it up again. And you know, it might take 30 tries of doing the back and forth and the back and forth until you get what you want, but it's a little better. Just a bit better. Now I'm going to show you the flowers. So any color flower would be okay to do. Just think about it. Like red flower would probably kind of clash with the birds, and pink might be a little overwhelming. So I would do maybe like a blue or a purple. But for the sake of this painting, I'm doing white just to make it easier. So you can kind of figure it out how you want. So you're going to want two shades, right? You're going to want a lighter shade for your base flower, and then you're going to want a darker shade for like the inside part. For me, that's going to be white is the lighter shade, and then a light gray for the inner part. But I'm just going to start with white. I'm going to grab some clean white here, and I'm going to just mix it around a little bit. That gray was dry, so I just went over it. Not going to bother me. Coat your brush nice. This time you can be a little bit more blobby with your paint. Doesn't have to be perfectly thin. But if you want to do a nice flower shape, I'm going to start kind of right here because there's a nice big one here. If you press, think about the middle of your flower is going to be like right there. Start out here, press gently, then you can press a little harder and drag it in, and then just pick up your brush. It'll give you a nice petal. You can do the same over here. Press, pick up your brush. Gives you a nice petal. And you just want to keep doing that around the like center part of your flower. So press, bring it in. And these flowers have 5 petals. All of them are a little different, but press and bring it in. There you go. Now you can go around and do that for all your flowers first and then come back if you want, or you can work one by one. But while this is wet, I'll just show you. I'm gonna take then some of my lighter gray color. I'll just make some right here. Take the tiniest bit of black and just mix it around there. And all I'm gonna do is take this and kind of add it to the middle part of the flower, kind of just brush it inside with that wet white paint, and it will kind of create this nice little blur. Now it might look a little too choppy, so then you can wipe your brush off and just use your brush like a tool and drag those colors into each other a little bit more. Now you can do the same thing with any colors. If you're doing like a pink, you want a lighter pink and a darker pink. But that's kind of it. And if you want to get really in there, you can even do darker and do it on a smaller scale. And that's just darker gray. And just gently blend that in. But yeah, so I'm gonna go around and do some more of those, but I'm gonna show you a couple spots that are like not like a perfect flower shape because they're at different angles. So for example, taking just white again, if I go down here, we could do like some flowers that are sort of hanging down. So instead of like a center, the center of the flower would be kind of here, but since it's hanging down, our perspective is a little different. So all the petals would kind of go downward, like so. And we can just keep adding some of those and really piling them up. So it's gonna look a little funny. It's hard to kind of make sense of at first, but then if you go with your gray, this is what's gonna help you differentiate. So you can kind of throw gray in each little petal, like the inside. This is hard to explain, but on the inside of the flower will be where it's shaded. I wiped off my brush and now I'm gonna blur this in. But we're not even done after that. What we're gonna do, and it might be easier to let it dry first, but then what you can do is take some more fresh white and use this to show the front part of the petal that's hanging down. So this would be the petal kind of behind. This would be the petal behind, or in front rather, I suppose. Same here. So this is a flower. The inside of it's right here. This is where the like pollen part would be, the stamen. It's been a long time since I was in elementary school, but and then this would be another one, you know, the inside is on that side. So these ones are hanging down, so it's a little different. And same kind of goes over here. This one, we've got one that's kind of pointing up, but it's not like in the perfect shape like we're seeing it from the side. And then you would do your grays, kind of do the inside part. And then you can use bright white again to show the outer petals on this side for perspective. And it's okay if your paint really cakes up, you know, that's the fun part of acrylic. You can kind of get really goopy with it. So go ahead and throw flowers kind of wherever you want to. If you want to hide something you didn't like, but don't be afraid to change up the size. So like maybe I'll put a little one here. And if you paint over some of your leaves, that's okay. The leaves are there as like extra decor. So I'm just gonna go around and throw some flowers where I want, and then I'll come back and do the grays on them. It's okay to go over your bird a little. It really is okay. Okay, so I've got the flowers done, but you know, you can play with the flowers as much as you want to. You can blend them to your heart's content. But the last thing I'm going to show you is you can add tiny little dots inside your flowers with just a really light yellow. So if you take some white, ooh, I'm running out of room, and then some yellow, and just mix some white and yellow together. Yeah, it can be really soft. Nice sunshiny light yellow. And you can just go ahead inside your flowers and add some little dots for like little stamens, pollen things, you know, whatever you want to call them. And that'll be like a nice little final point to your flowers there. These ones are hanging down, so they'd kind of come out, popping out like that. This one might kind of pop out like that. These are more like buds, so they don't really need them. And then maybe a couple in this one. And then that's kind of it, except for like if you want to sign your painting, if you want to go back in and tweak anything. But yeah, that is my lovely cardinal painting. So I hope you had fun doing this. If you want to see more, make sure you're a patron. Tell your friends. It's, you know, $15 a month, that's it. And I'll be posting, hopefully once a week, a painting. So that's like 4 painting tutorials a month for only $15, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, thank you so much. Hope you had fun and show me pictures.